Jaman Burton. We're going to get Jaman Burton here. One of the best vloggers out there. Just absolutely great work. I meant to sort of plug it in the beginning of the show. But what's going on, Jaman? How you doing?
Yeah, let's go.
What's going on, buddy? Long time, you're somewhat of a new Vegas resident, right?
Yeah, I've been here for wow, it's going on 2 years. 2 years this week, actually.
Yeah. So Jaman and I have known each other since before there were vloggers, right? I remember you came and sort of our first little informal get together. It wasn't a meetup. It was funny. It was at the Hooker Bar at the Rio, if anybody knows what that is. And it was planned in 2013. I was like, let's all get together at this time. But I was still in the Millionaire Maker. I got 16th in the very first Millionaire Maker with like 9,000 opponents. So we were on dinner break. I do remember that was the first time that I met you.
No, we predate that, man.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, like there was a trip that you and Tuckman were taken to like Boston, and you drove through St. Louis.
Oh, I do remember that. I do remember that. Yep.
I remember me and my buddy Rain Delay, we were like
Rain Delay, yeah.
Break even 1-2 players, and you walked in the room, and we were like starstruck. Like, oh my God, that's Bart Hansen.
I got, while we were in St. Louis, I got a free trip from Harrah's or from Caesars, and I had like Rams tickets. It's one of the worst games. Some bullshit game.
Him, and a couple other people played some like
drunk
game or something.
Yeah, I do. Okay, you're right. I do remember that. But
yes.
Jamie, I don't
know what year that was, but I mean, it was a long time ago.
2011 or 2012, actually. That was the year that Fitzpatrick beat the Patriots at home in Buffalo. If someone looks at the Patriots record, because I remember I was watching the game on DirecTV while the stupid Rams game was going on.
Because I was thinking about this last week. I've been listening to your stuff for forever. What was the show you had? The one that Jeremiah took over after you left?
Cash Plays.
Cash Plays. Yeah, that's when I started. So whenever that was.
Awesome. By the way, Jaman has the best vlog in terms of visuals and stuff like that. He does a great job with motion. Really, if you haven't seen it, it really is like put together really well, especially for a guy who's not like a professional editor. It's very, very impressive.
My vlog changes lives, Bart.
But I got to hear in my notes that you played a 510 Bellagio 1500 cap, right?
Yeah.
And you got a hand for us from that game.
Yeah, this actually this hand happened last night. So I mean, less than 12 hours ago, and it's a strange one, and it's a strange one because I found myself in a spot where I was in the fog, as we say, which doesn't happen a lot anymore. But in this hand, I was completely lost. So I'll just like jump into it. Okay. So in this hand, it's like you said, 510 at Bellagio, 1500 cap. Effective stacks are probably about 2400. I think Dylan had about 2400, and I was covering with 32.
Okay.
Yep. I opened the low jack with 10-9 of hearts.
Okay.
And the villain in this hand is the big blind, and he 3-bets me to $140.
All right, so Hero opens the low jack with 10-9 of hearts. How nitty is this game, by the way? I haven't played this game in forever. I know people complain about like the win game, but sometimes he keeps the really good players out, right? Because of the fact that they, because it's capped.
It's capped, so it's weird. So since it's like 150 big blind game, you typically don't have problems getting stacks in. So some people will just like punt off stacks because they don't know what else to do. This particular game that I'm in was a little on the nittier side. The guy that is the villain in this hand, the big blind, I wouldn't call him a whale. He's not like a legit whale, but he'll get in and he'll splash around a little bit. But it's normally not in 3-bet pots. He hasn't been 3-betting a ton, but he was doing a ton of calling. He was more stationy. And he would show up occasionally with some like random bluffs, like just looking at some of the rivers or some of the cards that he exposed. It was really clear. Like he wasn't studied. He wasn't he wasn't that kind of player. He just looked like he was just out having a good time and he didn't want to fold. I
mean, it is kind of a, even for a recreational player, even if they don't know what the word polar means, he 3-bet to 140 out of the big blind. right? When you open a 30 and he 3-bets to 140, you can call with, I mean, a lot of guys will just call with their in-between hands. So
Right.
it kind of demonstrates some strength, lean towards strength from a recreational player because they're not finding like ace four suited, types
Yeah.
of
Anytime
bluffs.
anybody, recreational or pro,
Yeah.
finds 3-bets out of either blind, like my eyebrows go up.
Well, if you have a guy who knows what he's doing though, he's going to play the small blind as a 3-bet fold versus LP versus late position raisers. But out of the big blind, especially heads up, I think it's worth something of note. You guys are 2,400 effective, so if you were to look at it from strict implied odds, it's 110 for you to call. You've got that 20x step depth, but I think your hand is even better than that because of the high card value to look at this from a perspective of defending here in position, which I assume is what you did, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I defended. Normally, I mean, like if we're 100 to 150 big blinds deep, I might like roll this spot, and I'd probably defend this one anyway because I normally defend red cards.
Okay. That's
But,
good.
but like in the 50-50 spots, I just pick red, and I'm like, all right, if they're red, I'm defending.
I mean, the times that you would not defend this is if you're shallower and you're playing an incredibly tight
Correct.
3-bet pre-flop.
Correct.
Then it would probably be a mistake. Okay, so we're at 290, right, to the flop.
Yep.
Okay.
So we see a flop of Jack of Diamonds, Eight of Hearts, Ace of Diamonds.
Interesting. So you flop an open-ended straight draw, sort of on the bottom end with a backdoor heart draw.
Correct.
Ace of Diamonds, Jack of Diamonds, Eight of Hearts. Okay.
So he leads out for $100, so about a third pot.
So bet over here of 100, which isn't so small. It's kind of a newer thing too, where you will actually find some people find some raises to very small bets and 3-bet pots. Although I don't think this is really on ace high boards. I don't think this is
pretty standard.
Yeah, I don't think this is one of them. Maybe if he starts to go like very super small, but I mean, you can call here, and then a lot of these guys too, like they know to c bet, but they'll miss the double barrels on the low disconnected board. So if you get a call here and then the turn's like an offsuit 3 and he checks, that's almost like a green light for you, right, to bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he leads out for 100, and I call.
Okay. Pretty standard.
Yeah.
So you make the call, and now the pot is probably just a hair under 500, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we're off to the turn.
Yep.
So the turn is the King of Hearts.
King of Hearts. Holy smokes. That's a good turn card for you.
It's a really good turn card.
I mean, it gives you a heart draw now.
Yes.
I mean, the only thing I'm going to say is that at least on the top end here, it'll put a one-liner out there if you make the top end, not a queen. It's just
Correct.
something to be said. Okay.
Okay. So turn King of Hearts. He continues betting $260.
$260, so kind of like halfish.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think you got to call again, right?
Which we do. Like
Yep.
The options here, call, check, fold. Folding is just kind of silly, and raising is like disastrous. So that we just land on call and we slide in $260.
Well, I mean, I'll say that in terms of raising, like, I mean, you're gonna what are some of the most likely types of hands that get spot in these spots? So there's a 3-bet. Why am I hearing some echo here from somebody? I don't know. All of a sudden, ace king, aces, pocket kings, pocket jacks.
Yeah, I mean he's still on cap, so he can still have all the things, right?
Now, Queen 10 is open-ended, though, too, if you opened and defended, right? You were double-gutted on the flop, which gets there. It's just something of note. But, okay, so now the pot's 1,020. Okay.
Right. So now we get to the river.
Okay.
All right. And the river is where the fault comes in. So the river is the 5 of spades.
5 of spades. So you just whiff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he checks.
So big blind checks. I don't know if you caught the last hand that we just did live with Megan, how I was saying that ace king would have been the nut Broadway straight. It's just very, very rare to see somebody, even if it might be proper to take such a strong hand sometimes and find the situations where it might be overall better to check to induce a bluff and get a raise in. I'm not saying that someone should check raise ace king, but it would be very surprising for somebody to check ace king here, I think, from up front, from your sort of villain type. So because of, and that includes sets too, ace king or better. And that is for me, obviously, playing live poker for the last 15 or 20 years, I would be shocked if he check calls with ace king here. So when you take that into consideration, now you're like, well, he doesn't have ace king. He doesn't have sets. What is maybe once I still think that guys go for value here with like ace jack, right? If this guy so it kind of caps him, even though I'm not a huge fan of that word because people sort of misuse it so often, but I think it's a decent shot to use it here. Kind of caps him at one pair here.
Yeah.
So then the question is, well, you're at the absolute bottom of your range. You obviously have no showdown value whatsoever. I kind of want to pot polar here. I mean, if I know a guy only has one pair, and if I think that he can read the board, right? You would know that there's queen 10 that's out there, and he loses to two pairs. So I kind of want to bet 800 to 1,000 here, at the end.
It's funny that you say that. So I went through a similar thought process, like capped him at at the maximum, maybe having like king jack at the like absolute top. And I go into the tank. Do you want me to tell you what happens?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I go into the tank here and I'm debating on whether I can get him to fold a king. I'm like, if he has an ace, if he just got scared with like ace queen or ace 10 or something like this, like he's just going to call and I'll just lose and I'm fine with that.
You think that he's always going to call with an ace?
I think he is. He's kind of stationy. So yeah, I think maybe if he has an ace and then he picked up a gutter on the turn.
Well, here's the thing. If you think he's always going to call with an ace and you're just trying to fold out a king, then there's no way that I would go large.
Yeah. So
then there's no reason to go large. Bet 300 or 400 then.
I'm not a big fan of giving up, right? And so the whole just check it back with 10 high and lose, like it makes my stomach crawl. Like I'll go out in like a blaze of glory. So I'm debating, and is this a PG show?
No, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you exactly what was going through my mind. And this is the way I typed it out. I go deep into the tank here and I'm thinking, fuck, I have 10 high versus a villain that doesn't fold, and a lot of the hands that he 3-bet are at least a pair. So I'm thinking, and I grab chips, like people grab chips as they're thinking, and I'm kind of riffling them around. And I reach on top of my stack and grab black chips, the $100 chips. And I'm just kind of thinking and moving them around. And he looks over at me and he says, I don't think you have very much, but I can't beat anything.
Okay.
And he shows his hand to his neighbor in size and just throws it face down into the muck.
So you didn't even have to make a bet? You just had him in your hand? Oh,
I didn't bet
what a life you live, Jaman. Jesus.
I'm shocked, right? And the dealer pushes me the pot. So the dealer's pushing me the pot, getting the cards ready for the next deal, and I'm stacking up the chips, and I asked what he had. And I asked what he had, or he asked what I had. He asked what I had, and I laugh and I say I had 10-9 of hearts. His neighbor busts out laughing now. Because apparently the villain had 10-9 of diamonds.
Wow. So he had the front door combo draw. You guys have the same hand. You turn the back door, and then he gave up at the end. Very, very interesting. I mean,
he didn't rip it. He just gave up.
Yeah, I mean that's one that you should probably almost never give up if you're the villain, right? Because you've got the huge range advantage, and you could be holding on with an ace, and he could put you in like quite a spot. Let me just ask you this question. There's a couple things I want to say about this hand.
Yeah.
Like for example, Jaman, let's say that instead of you having 9-10 of hearts, like you defended with like ace 7 suited to his 3-bet. I don't know how, or maybe like ace 4 suited, right? Pre-flop, right? And he bet the flop and you called, and he bet the turn, and you're like, and you called, or maybe you even ace 10, and the river, he again bet like 600-700. Like there's a lot of fold equity with ace 4 against you, right? Against recreational, it goes 3 barrels. I'm assuming you're a 3-bet pot, right? So I think that's why he has to 3-barrel that hand. Now, I do see some interesting comments in the live chat, people saying obviously front door diamonds have missed, so you're going to be more likely to get called. Sure. I mean, that's a good point. I do disagree. 100%. Somebody did say that at 5-10, anyone's here is calling with an ace. I don't agree with that, because I think if I'm in the big blind spot and I have respect for a guy on the who I think is structuring correctly, this would be a very, and now maybe I'm not sizing like this guy did, but this would be a very hard call for me to make with just an ace. I do acknowledge that if I had ace, queen, or ace 10, I do obviously lose to queen 10, but especially if someone is capable of going a little bit thinly at the end, even not for polarizing sizing, like, you know,
because I could still have this,
like
I could just have ace, queen of clubs here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for the same reasons we just talked about. Once he checks the river and you know he doesn't have two pair, then why not bet, right?
Yeah.
Why not bet for value?
But if I have ace 4 in this spot and he's going bet, I'm probably folding the river. Yeah. It's not something you see like Rex do. Just go like 3-bet out of position and then just bet on this type board.
That's what I mean. That's why I think you know he blew it. Well, he blew it by obviously he was going to fold anyways, but he needed to fire the third barrel. For sure. Jamin, pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been a long time.
Buddy, always.
The last time I think you might have called was like back in the Apostle scandal days.
Oh, yeah. It was a long time ago. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll hear from you again soon.